Howdy folks, welcome back to the vlog. It is me, the Tank Commander, and if you're seeing this today, we are just 4 days away from my NCL Getaway 2020 cruise. That's right, 4 days. The excitement is building, everybody. I am getting really excited. And we have the winning votes today, so I want to make sure I can make it short and sweet for everybody, because we got a lot to do these next couple days. So, what is it that we have with us today? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the winning vote. Yes, this is it. For any of you who don't know what this is known as the Sturmtiger, or Sturmtiger, the Sturmtiger, or Assault Tiger in German. What this was a heavy assault gun designed by the Germans in 1943. Now, a little background. What an assault gun is it's basically a vehicle on a tank chassis with a large caliber gun on it. Now, I have a book called the Panzer Artillery, which is the mobile artillery pieces that were used by the Panzer divisions and their supporting divisions. Now, if you play the game called World of Tanks, that's basically the artillery that's there. There are several of them, and to put an example, one of the most famous ones that is in the game is the Hummel, which is German for bumblebee, or the Wespe, which is German for wasp. But that's more of a self-propelled gun, though. An assault gun is more of a thickly armored vehicle with a large caliber gun on it. For example, the Germans had the Brummbär, which is German for grizzly bear. And that thing had a 150 millimeter howitzer on it. But once again, after the Battle of Kursk in 1943, and along with other losses, Hitler wanted to go bigger. And, believe it or not, this is what they came up with. The Sturmtiger was designed by Alkilt, which was designed in 1943, and started production in 1943. This was built off of redesigned Tiger chassis, and it had 100 millimeters of armor on the front. Yes, that's the same as the Tiger. And had 80 millimeters of armor on the sides and 80 millimeters of armor on the rear. This caused this tank, now because of the extra weight on the casemate and whatnot, this caused this tank to weigh 75 short tons, or 68 metric tons, or 67 imperial tons. So, now you're probably wondering, does this thing have the same engine? Yes and no. This thing had a Maybach HL230 P45 V12 petrol engine, which also produced 690 horsepower. Yes, it was a Maybach 700 horsepower engine, but it was a later version of it. The reason was, this was a heavier tank on the Tiger chassis, and it produced more strain on the vehicle. Once again, though, this tank had the unfortunate capacity to have its engine overheat because of the overloaded weight, and they would often have, again, been abandoned when they ran out of fuel. Now you're probably wondering, what in God's name is that thing on the front? Well, that, ladies and gentlemen, is a 380 millimeter rocket launcher, or Raketenwerfer. That was supposed to be used on a U-boat. That's an 11-inch mortar. An 11-inch rocket-launching mortar that was supposed to be used on U-boats. That's a big, big round. I do happen to have, if anybody knows the company called Kobe, which is a Polish company that's similar to Legos, that I have a bigger model of this. Now, what you're probably wondering is, what's this little thing on the top? This is a crane. The thing is, this thing's ammunition, which was 11-inch rockets, were huge. If you look on the top here, right there, that is the loading door, okay? You have to open this on the top and open this door on the back in order to load these things into this thing. And this thing, I think, can only carry like 18 rounds or something. Now, it had a crew of 5. It had a driver, a bound machine gunner, and radio operator, 2 loaders, and the commander had to also be the gunner on this thing. Now, I'm sure everybody knows about the little Easter eggs in World of Tanks Blitz and whatnot by seeing this thing. This thing is visible on 2 maps. It's visible on Rockfield, and it's visible on Vineyards. You can see this thing on the maps. I know many people, including myself, are wanting to know when this tank is going to be introduced into the game. But that's besides the point. So, you're probably wondering, was this thing used? Yes, 18 of them were, pardon me, 18 of them were produced and used. Now, the service record does not show much about it. However, the most famous use of this was during the Warsaw Uprising against the Poles. And if you watch archival footage, you'll see footage of this thing firing. And it's pretty scary because also for the Warsaw Uprising, the Germans used the famous Karl Moser, remember the Karl Gerate? And that was also the last use of the Schwere Gustav railway gun. Although I think it was more of Dora that was used during the uprising. Also, this tank was used against the Allies. One account claims that a Sturmtiger fired a round into a group of 4 Shermans and destroyed them all. Although you have to remember, this had to get pretty lucky with this shot because these rockets were unguided. This was basically not supposed to be used as like a conventional assault weapon, more or less a terror weapon because of its massive size, weapon, and explosive power to it. But there were several that were knocked out. In fact, the image that I pull up right here, this was knocked out by the Americans firing bazookas, and they struck it in the back. And of course, everybody knows, like, once something like this stopped, and it couldn't move, yeah, it's a sitting duck. It seems like there's a trend, isn't there? So if I remember seeing the photos correctly, this thing was struck by 3 bazooka rounds, and it ended up sliding off the road and into a ditch, and it got stuck. There weren't a lot of Sturmtiger. I almost said King Tiger there. But the total left in the world is there's only 2 left. One of them is at the Deutsches Panzer Museum in Münster, which is now being on loan to Koblenz for another collection. This Sturmtiger they actually got from the Aberdeen Proving Ground here in America, so we must have captured that one. The second one is, as you probably guessed it, once again, at the Kubinka Tank Museum in Moscow, and this one was captured by the Russians at the Elbe River in 1945. So, what I think is, this thing, I'd have to say, was all 3 of the above. It was useless because it's just, using such a weapon, like, for a U-boat, is just completely crazy. It was kind of pathetic, because it's, again, Hitler's megalomaniac mind wanting to build bigger and bigger, and it was technically obsolete, because every other assault gun and self-propelled gun by 1945 had large cannons on it, and the fact is this thing just had a rocket launcher that couldn't really do much. So, that ends the video for today, folks. And with the next 3 days, we got 4 tanks left, so remember to get out there and vote. And I hope to see you guys in the comments of the next video. Catch you guys then. The Tank Commander out.